Chapter 215. After an unknown period of time, the information on the incomplete sword essence was finally completed. Li Fuchen realized that the incomplete sword essence only had the complete black iron sword essence and bronze sword essence. There was only a small portion of the silver sword essence. According to the records, the value of the black iron sword essence wasn't inferior to any 4-star secret technique. The bronze sword essence was a 6-star secret technique. What's more, the sword essence secret technique's greatest use wasn't considered an attack, but a support attack. Just like an artifact sword, it couldn't kill by itself, but in the hands of a swordsman, it could kill. The logic of the sword essence was similar. Once Li Fuchen cultivated the sword essence, he would be able to use his bone marrow as a sword and release sword chi at will. There wasn't even a need to use an artifact sword to activate it. If it was complemented with an artifact sword, the sword chi's power could be further increased, making it extremely terrifying. Of course, the difficulty of practicing the sword essence secret technique was extremely high. Even if it was the bronze sword essence, the difficulty of practicing it had to reach the level of a 5-star secret technique. It was impossible to practice it in a short period of time. One could only practice it slowly over time. Opening his eyes, Li Fuchen realized that he was the first to wake up. Just as Li Fuchen opened his eyes, Su Muyu woke up too. She didn't look at Li Fuchen and thought in her heart, 6-star secret technique is enough for me to break the rules of the East Unicorn continent. But I must never reveal to anyone that I have a 6-star secret technique. Even the Eternal Spring Valley didn't have a 6-star secret technique. Once it was leaked, it would cause the various sects in the East Unicorn continent to go crazy. I wonder what secret technique this person obtained? Su Muyu looked at Li Fuchen. In her opinion, Li Fuchen's secret technique should also be a 6-star secret technique. It might even be better than hers, which could be seen from the previous signs. As for the others, they were probably 4 or 5-star secret techniques. After obtaining the incomplete sword essence secret technique, Li Fuchen intended to chase after the other light spots. But he soon realized that these light spots were dispersing and fusing into the walls of the Grand Hall. It seems like one person can only obtain one secret technique inheritance. Li Fuchen thought to himself. Kiki, we are all here. Eating all of you should make our bodies stronger. Just as everyone woke up, familiar figures walked in from the Grand Hall's entrance. They were Fu Chongshan, Su Heishan, the 2 direct disciples of the Earth Fire clan, and Li Wuxia. The pupils of these 5 people were different from ordinary people. The sclera of their eyes was black, while the pupils were white. It was very strange. What's going on? Aren't they dead? Fan Qiansong and Fan Qianyu were shocked. Something isn't right. Li Fuchen frowned. Junior brother Gao, junior brother Lu, what's wrong? Song Qinghe looked at the 2 successor disciples of the Earth Fire sect and asked immediately. Previously, the 2 of them had also wanted to come over. However, they were unable to cross the single log bridge. Who is your junior brother Gao? The young man called junior brother Gao licked his lips. His forked tongue looked extremely strange and disgusting. Rain said solemnly, their bodies have been taken over by evil beings. She had seen many things, so her horizons were broader than everyone else's. Evil creature? Li Fuchen was in deep thought. It seemed like after Li Wuxia escaped, he didn't end up well. It saved him the trouble of killing Li Wuxia. But Li Fuchen wasn't very happy. Even though Li Wuxia didn't exist anymore, but compared to Li Wuxia, these evil beings were much harder to deal with. How could an existence that could take over a person's body or corpse be simple? Get out of my junior brother Gao's body. Song Qinghe roared and sent a fist at his opponent. Kiki, you overestimate yourself. The shadow behind junior brother Gao wiggled. With a snap, the air was torn apart. A long black shadow ruthlessly whipped at Song Qinghe, sending him flying. Vomiting a mouthful of fresh blood, Song Qinghe was overwhelmed with shock. His ability might not be considered elite, but it wasn't weak either. But he was actually sent flying in a single strike. What level was his opponent's ability at? Tail. Li Fuchen's eyes shrank. He could clearly see that junior brother Gao had a tail growing out from his back. It was a giant snake tail that was covered in scales. It was just like the tail of a python, powerful and powerful. Snap, snap, snap. Junior brother Gao swung his tail, causing the air to be torn apart. I know, it's a demon spirit, Fan Qiansong yelled out. Hearing this, Li Fuchen and the others looked at Fan Qiansong. Fan Qiansong explained, Class 6 demonic beasts produce a demon spirit. As long as the demon spirit isn't extinguished, even if the physical body is destroyed, it can still be reincarnated. Or it can take over the body of a recently deceased person. But the martial artist whose body is taken over will be corroded by the demon qi, turning into an existence that is neither human nor ghost. I see. Su Muyu nodded. She too felt that these people had their bodies taken over by demon spirits. The one that attacked Song Qinghe earlier was obviously a snake-type demonic beast's demon spirit. You are rather knowledgeable to actually know about demon spirits. I thought that in the current East Unicorn continent, only reincarnation realm martial artists would know about such things. Su Heishan opened his mouth, revealing a mouth filled with sharp teeth. His tongue was half a foot long and was extremely thick. There were even sarcomas on it. If it is a demon spirit, then it will be troublesome. Wei Shanhe's expression was extremely unpleasant. The demon spirit was a Class 6 demonic beast when it was alive. Even if it was just a demon spirit, it was still extremely formidable. At least it had incredible combat skills. If they were to recover to their peak condition, they wouldn't even be able to withstand a single move from the demon spirit. Demon spirits might be formidable when they were alive, but after they reincarnated, their ability is closely related to the ability of the body they took over. Su Muyu explained. That's right. That's why we are going to eat you all to strengthen our ability. Swish. Su Heishan's clothes were ripped apart as his body instantly expanded. In just a breath's time, a lizard man appeared in everyone's vision. Why is there a demon spirit in this tomb? Didn't Class 6 demonic beasts go extinct in the East Unicorn continent? Fan Qinyu was extremely anxious. Be obedient and become food. Su Heishan roared and rushed at them. Go back. A scythe appeared in Su Muyu's hand. As she brandished the scythe, a jade green light burst out. Rumble. A chi flow exploded as Su Muyu and Su Heishan flew backwards. Interesting. Rather strong. Su Heishan licked his lips. Buzz buzz buzz, an intense vibrating sound could be heard. A pair of transparent wings appeared on the back of Li Wuxia. As the wings flapped, his body soared into the sky. His mouth rapidly lengthened and sharpened, turning into a needle in the blink of the eye. This was a mosquito-type demonic beast. Enter the side hall. Li Fuchen didn't have any intention to clash with these demon spirits. He called out to Fan Qiansong and Fan Qinyu before sprinting towards the side hall. The rest of the group woke up from their stupor and ran towards the side hall. Where do you think you're going? Of the 5 great demon spirits, Li Wuxia's speed was the fastest. In an instant he had caught up to Song Qinghe, who was the slowest. The needle pierced through Song Qinghe's protective Zhenqi, as well as Song Qinghe's body. With a single breath, Song Qinghe's body quickly shriveled up, while Li Wuxia's body swelled up, filled with a blood-red light. Chapter 216. The strength of a demon spirit was too strong, and it could unleash 30% of its strength. As a gold-class direct disciple of the Earthly Fire clan, Song Qinghe's strength wasn't much weaker than Fu Chongshan's. However, under Li Wuxia's suction, he was instantly sucked dry, dying a horrible death. After sucking Song Qinghe's blood dry, Li Wuxia didn't chase after Li Fuchen and the others. His body floated in the air while his body was flashing with a blood-colored radiance, as though he was digesting the power within the blood. After entering the side hall, Li Fuchen scanned with his awareness and immediately found an exit. He skimmed through the exit. This is our territory. Where can you run to? Fu Chongshan had transformed into a tiger man, and his eyes were filled with ferocity. After exiting the side hall, the space instantly widened. However, the space for the demon spirits behind him also increased. Seeing that a demon spirit was about to catch up to Fan Qinyu, Li Fuchen quickly took out his crossbow and shot a devil-break arrow. The devil-piercing arrow was extremely fast and instantly pierced into the demon spirit's body. This demon spirit was Song Qinghei's junior brother Lu. The half-human, half-beast him pulled out the devil-piercing arrow and broke it into two. What a pity! Li Fuchen felt that it was a pity. The devil-break arrow could be retrieved. Although it would consume a portion of the devil-break crystal's energy, it could still be used a few times. He reckoned that it would all be used in the tomb this time. Of course, no matter how pitiful it was, Li Fuchen had no other choice. It was already extremely fortunate for him to be able to escape this time. He really didn't know how he was going to avoid the pursuit of the four demon spirits. Am I going to die here? Li Fuchen was extremely unwilling. At this moment he felt how weak he was. If he was a little stronger, he would be able to fight against these demon spirits. Among the group, Rain was the only one who could fight against the demon spirits. If it wasn't for the fact that there were too many demon spirits, Rain wouldn't even need to run. If there was an expert on the same level as Heartless Sword Xuefeng, he might be able to fight two demon spirits alone. If there was a sword maniac among them, it wouldn't be a problem for him to deal with 4 or 5 of them. Power. Everything is about power. Without power, it would be hard to advance. My cultivation base is still too low. The cultivation of the second level of the Earth realm couldn't be any lower. Li Fuchen had heaven-defying perception, but there was too little time for his perception to be utilized. Before his soul spirit turned light blue class, his perception was already not inferior to regular 6-star bone frames. Right now, his perception was undoubtedly beyond the 6-star class. As long as he was given enough time, he would be able to break the iron laws of the East Unicorn continent. Is it good or bad to come out to train so early? Li Fuchen started to doubt his own choice. Laughing bitterly, Li Fuchen shook his head. He actually started to doubt himself. It seemed that his state of mind wasn't strong enough. He could face it calmly in the past because he didn't have much experience. Training could bring him enough experience, but it also brought him enough danger. That's right, the poison pill. Li Fuchen recalled that the Silver Cloth sect's Lu Guangfeng still had a few poison elixirs in his storage bag. The poison pill was a special type of pill. It could not be used to assist in cultivation, but it could be used to deal with enemies. Previously, Li Fuchen didn't dare to use it on Fu Chongshan because he was afraid he would be poisoned too. Unless it was a matter of life and death, he did not intend to use poison pills. He couldn't care less now. Taking out a poison pill, Li Fuchen poured his qi into it and threw it at the pursuing Fu Chongshan. Bang! The poison pill exploded and a huge amount of poison gas diffused out. Just by inhaling a trace of poison gas, Li Fuchen felt dizzy. Consuming a detoxification pill, Li Fuchen said to the others, "Hurry up and consume the detoxification pill." Hearing this, the rest of them took out the detoxification pills from their storage bags and consumed them. The poison gas diffused at an extreme speed and all 4 demon spirits were infected by the poison gas. Especially Fu Chongshan, who was caught off guard and swallowed quite a bit of the poison gas, instantly having a reaction. Unknowingly, the speed of the 4 demon spirits decreased by a lot. It is indeed effective. Li Fuchen's eyes lit up. Be it martial artists or demonic beasts, they were all afraid of poison. Only demonic beasts that were naturally venomous wouldn't be afraid of poison. After thinking for a moment, Li Fuchen threw 2 more poison pills behind him. Red and blue poison gas diffused, causing the 4 demon spirits to be covered in dirt. All of them had their speed greatly reduced as they dodged the poison gas. Making use of this opportunity, the 5 of them entered a stone hall with extreme speed. Rumble! After the 5 of them entered the stone hall, they quickly pressed on the mechanism and a stone door sunk in. The 5 of them were gasping for air. Li Fuchen, it is all thanks to your poison pills. Fan Qiansong had a lingering fear in his heart. Li Fuchen replied, I just thought of it too. Bang! Outside the stone door, an intense collision could be heard. The ones who crashed into the stone door were Gao Shidi and Su Heishan from Songqinghe. One of them was a snake-type demon spirit and the other was a venomous lizard. Both of them had a certain level of immunity towards poison. If they didn't possess a human's body, they wouldn't need to fear the poison gas. After all, their current bodies were still a little afraid of the poison gas. What do we do now? Fan Qinyu asked. Li Fuchen replied, there is no other way. We can only wait and see. Going out was definitely not an option, it would be courting death. If they didn't go out, they would have to wait here. Su Muyu sat down cross-legged at the side. She intended to comprehend the secret technique she obtained. If she could make some progress, she might be able to escape. Fan Qiansong said, everyone has a storage bag with plenty of rations. Why don't we go into seclusion here? In the inheritance hall, he obtained a 5-star secret technique and was looking for an opportunity to comprehend it. This is the only way. Wei Shanhe and Fan Qinyu nodded. As for Li Fuchen, he didn't intend to comprehend the incomplete sword essence secret technique. He wanted to see if he could break through to the 3rd level of the Earth realm. After obtaining Lu Guangfeng's and Su Heishan's storage bags, there were plenty of good items. Some of them were extremely useful for cultivation. Just like that, everyone each occupied an area and began to cultivate or comprehend. At the southeast corner of the hall, Li Fuchen took out 2 storage bags. They were Lu Guangfeng's and Su Heishan's storage bags. This is the Golden Wind Jade Dew Flower. It can increase one's mental state by quite a bit. This is the Spirit Wind Herb. It can increase one's cultivation speed. This is the Mystic Class, Mid-Tier Pill, 100-Flower Pill. It can nourish the Dantian. Li Fuchen took out all the items that were beneficial for cultivation and organized them one by one. Finally, Li Fuchen took out an earth-shattering fruit from his own storage bag. This was the earth-shattering fruit that he specially left for himself. The first earth-shattering fruit had a 100% chance of helping one break through. The second earth-shattering fruit only had a 10% to 20% chance. Even though it wasn't high, but when complemented with the other items, Li Fuchen felt that there was a high chance. Taking a deep breath, Li Fuchen consumed the Spirit Wind Herb and began to revolve the true Inferno technique. As the effects of the Spirit Wind Herb dispersed, Li Fuchen felt his body producing a trace of hunger. His cultivation speed was much faster than usual. After the Spirit Wind Herb was completely refined, Li Fuchen began to consume the Golden Wind Jade Dew Flower and 100-Flower Pill. Finally, Li Fuchen consumed the earth-shattering fruit. As the earth-shattering fruit entered his stomach, a majestic energy burst out. Chapter 217. In the Earth realm, each level was harder to advance. Even direct disciples would need at least a year to advance a level. Those who could advance a level within a year were either elite 5-star bone frames or 6-star bone frames. Of course, there were always exceptions. There were some fated encounters that could allow a person to increase their cultivation level rapidly, like rare herbs like the earth-shattering fruit, or genius hidden domains like the Star Road hidden domain that could allow a person to increase their cultivation level rapidly. Within a short period of time, Li Fuchen's body was filled with all sorts of medicinal effects. Each of these medicinal effects had their own functions and coordinated with Li Fuchen's breakthrough. It felt like a few big fishes were pulling Li Fuchen's small boat against the current, going against the current to forcefully break through. Peak of the 2nd level of the Earth realm, the limit of the 2nd level of the Earth realm. When he reached the limit of the 2nd level of the Earth realm, Li Fuchen felt a bottleneck. This bottleneck was like a lock that blocked Li Fuchen's path of ascension. If he wanted to open this lock, he would either have the key, or he would sever it. Li Fuchen chose the second option. The first option was to go with the flow and breakthrough. But it was obvious that he wasn't going with the flow. His chi and mental state turned into sharp swords, slashing at the lock again and again. Cracks gradually appeared on the lock. After an unknown period of time, all sorts of assistance was used up, but the lock still hadn't been severed. Li Fuchen only had one thought at this moment, which was to sever the lock. Everything else was neglected by him. Clang, clang, clang. With the fusion of chi and mental state, the sword was getting sharper. Crackle. With a flash of lightning, the lock was severed. At that moment, the chi within Li Fuchen's body was surging and howling. Li Fuchen didn't dare to be negligent and consumed a yellow class, peak tier pill to replenish the qi required for the third level of the earth realm. After all, this wasn't the 100 herbs hidden domain. The heaven and earth energy wasn't as concentrated, and he had to rely on pills to quickly increase his qi. When Li Fuchen broke through, the rest of the people felt the blazing qi wave. He broke through. Su Muyu opened her eyes and looked over. Among everyone, Li Fuchen was undoubtedly the only person she acknowledged. There weren't many people that she acknowledged. There weren't many in the entire East Unicorn continent. That's fine. With his current strength, he should be able to hold off a demon spirit. As someone that she acknowledged, Rain naturally didn't treat Li Fuchen as an ordinary person. For people at their level, every time they broke through a realm, the increase in strength would be even greater. When a regular Earth Realm martial artist broke through to the next level, their strength would only increase by 1%. When a sect's silver class direct disciple broke through to the next stage, their strength would increase by 2 times. A gold class direct disciple's strength would increase by 3 times. On the other hand, they could increase it by at least 4. This was the difference. Closing her eyes, Rain continued to comprehend the 6-star secret technique that she had obtained. Great, Li Fuchen broke through. Fan Qiansong and Fan Qinyu were overjoyed. In their eyes, Li Fuchen was undoubtedly a monster. A monster's advancement by 1 level wasn't like an ordinary person's advancement by 1 level. They were very curious about Li Fuchen's current strength. Spitting out a mouthful of hot turbid air, Li Fuchen slowly opened his eyes. 3rd level of the Earth Realm. Feeling the surging energy within his body, Li Fuchen's heart was at peace. After breaking through to the 3rd level of the Earth Realm, his ability had a huge increase. He was confident that even if he were to meet Fu Chongshan again, he would be able to go head-on. The increase in cultivation didn't just mean an increase in strength, it also meant an increase in speed and reaction speed. But it shouldn't be enough to deal with a demon spirit. I can at most hold it back. The ability of a demon spirit was extremely formidable and wasn't inferior to Rain. But even though there was only a difference of 1 level between him and Rain. But the true difference wasn't just a single level. Rain was also 19 years old, but when she progressed to the Earth Realm, she wouldn't be older than Yan Qingwu. Which meant to say that she progressed to the Earth Realm at the age of 16 or 17, while Li Fuchen only progressed at the age of 19. There was a difference of 2 to 3 years. 2 to 3 years was enough for a lot of things to happen. As a 6-star bone frame, 2 to 3 years was enough for Rain to progress further on the path of martial Dao. Li Fuchen could feel that Rain's Mystic Class Mid-Tier intent was much more profound than his Mystic Class Mid-Tier Sword intent. Even if Li Fuchen progressed to the 4th level of the Earth Realm, he still wouldn't be a match for Rain. His accumulation wasn't comparable to her. No matter how strong one's perception was, it would still require time to accumulate and break through. Bang bang bang. The stone door was constantly shaking and dust was spreading. There wasn't much time left for everyone. This stone door was after all just a stone door. No matter how sturdy it was, it would still crumble one day. After stabilizing his cultivation, Li Fuchen began to comprehend the 3-star secret technique, Life Spring Technique. The difficulty of comprehending the 6-star secret technique, Sword Essence Remnant section, was extremely high. He didn't dare to guarantee that he would be able to make any progress within a short period of time. Rather than betting everything on the Sword Essence Remnant section, why not try the Life Spring Technique first? The Life Spring Technique could stimulate one's life force potential and instantly recover from injuries. It was extremely useful in a life or death battle. It could at least ensure that he was in a good condition and wouldn't have his ability drop due to injuries. The Life Spring Technique required the opening of the Life Spring. And the only place to open the Life Spring was the Gate of Life Acupoint. The Gate of Life Acupoint was one of the fundamental acupoints of the human body. It contained innate qi, and according to ancient records, innate qi represented the innate lifespan and innate life force. Postnatal nourishment could increase one's lifespan and life force, but it was hard to increase one's innate lifespan and innate life force. Only rare herbs could increase one's innate qi. Once the innate qi was used up, it would be useless no matter how postnatal nourishment was used. The life spring technique was to open up the life spring at the gate of life acupoint and stimulate the innate qi to instantly recover from injuries. Which meant to say, every time Li Fuchen activated the life spring technique, he would need to consume a portion of his innate qi. Once the innate qi was depleted, Li Fuchen would die. So this is a dangerous secret technique? Li Fuchen raised his brows. Innate qi was too hard to come by. Martial artists had to cultivate to the reincarnation realm in order to increase their innate qi. Before that, the innate qi was fixed. As for those treasures that could increase innate qi, they were too hard to come by and could only be found by chance. When opening up the life spring, one had to be careful. If one was careless, the innate qi would leak out and his life would be in danger. After spending a total of 3 days, Li Fuchen finally opened up the life spring. It might be dangerous, but it is rather quick to cultivate. It isn't as time-consuming as the primary clear hand. Opening up the life spring meant that the life spring technique was at the subcompletion stage. The next step was to recover from injuries in an instant. If it was at the completion stage, it was possible to recover from all injuries in an instant. But the prerequisite was that there was enough innate qi. The stone door was sturdier than expected. It had been a few days and there were no cracks. The Heaven and Earth Evergreen technique has 7 ranks. Even though I have only comprehended the first rank, it is enough to increase my ability a little. In just a few days, with her 6-star bone frame's incredible perception, Rain finally comprehended some superficial knowledge of the 6-star secret technique, the Heaven and Earth Evergreen technique. The stone door trembled like never before and a crack extended. Chapter 218. After absorbing Song Qinghe's essence blood, Li Wuxia had a drastic increase in strength. With a single attack, the stone door that was fine for a few days suddenly had a crack. Bang! Li Wuxia blasted another attack on the stone door. There were now 3 cracks on the stone door. Not good, the stone door is about to crack. Fan Qinyu was alarmed. Once the stone door was broken, none of them would be able to escape and would have to fight with the demon spirits. But could they fight against the demon spirits? Standing up, Li Fuchen said to Su Muyu and the others, I have a way to eliminate half of the demon spirits at once. If we are lucky, we might be able to eliminate all of them. What is it? Hearing this, Rain's face was filled with shock. The demon spirits were extremely strong and she wasn't confident she could kill them in a one-on-one fight. But Li Fuchen had a way to eliminate all of them. Li Fuchen raised his head and pointed at the giant lamp. The flame on it is the blood flame of the Class 6 demonic beast, Blue Flame Desolated Blood Beast. It shouldn't be a problem to burn a few demon spirits to death. These demon spirits might not be inferior to the Blue Flame Desolated Blood Beast at their peak, but they were still demon spirits now and their strength wasn't even 100% at their peak. This is the blood flame of the Blue Flame Desolated Blood Beast? Su Muyu's heart skipped a beat. With a suction force from her palm, one of the flames was absorbed. Just like Li Fuchen, Su Muyu's qi layer was instantly burned through without any delay. Such a tyrannical flame. Everyone took in a deep, cold breath. Let alone an Earth Realm martial artist, even a regular Heaven Realm martial artist would be burned to death by this flame. The flame was then drawn back by the lamp. Li Fuchen said, when they enter, we will do our best to absorb the flame. As for the result, it will be up to the heavens. I feel that this method is feasible and it is the only way. Su Muyu nodded. Crackle. The stone door was finally shattered and Li Wuxia and the other 4 demon spirits appeared in everyone's vision. Let's see where you are going to escape this time. Fu Chongshan raised his tiger claw and laughed sinisterly. Behind the lamp, Li Fuchen and the others looked at each other and nodded silently. Go. The 5 demon spirits shot at Li Fuchen and the others. Make your move. Seeing the 5 demon spirits passing under the lamp, Li Fuchen yelled out and extended his hand to pull at the lamp. The other 4 also extended their palms towards the lamp. There were dozens of flames on the lamp. These flames could not be controlled, but under the effect of the suction force, the flames fell off one by one, like a rain of fire, falling from the sky towards Li Wuxia's group of 5. Not good. Fu Chongshan was horrified. He quickly halted his advance and retreated backward. No. The demon spirit that occupied Junior Brother Lu's body was hit by a blue flame. His body instantly ignited with blue flames, and in a few breaths' time, he turned into a pile of ashes. Following that, Su Heishan was also hit by a blue flame, followed by Junior Brother Gao. In the blink of an eye, the three demon spirits turned into ashes. To be exact, their bodies had turned into ashes. As for whether the demon spirits themselves were injured or dead, it was unknown. Only Li Wushue's speed was the fastest, as he instantly escaped from the envelopment of the rain of fire. Fu Chongshan was slightly slower and one of his arms was hit by the flames. At the crucial moment, he severed his own arm. Rain and the others heaved a sigh of relief when they saw the results. If there were only two demon spirits, he could still put up a fight. He actually used the blue flames of desolate blood to deal with us. Fu Chongshan's expression was extremely unpleasant. After so many years, they had already forgotten that the flames in the hall were the blue flames of desolate blood. Otherwise, they wouldn't have given Li Fuchen and the others a chance. I will deal with Li Wushue, you guys deal with the other one. Rain wielded her jade green scythe and activated her secret technique. With a flash, she skimmed towards Li Wushue. Among everyone present, she was the only one who could barely contest against Li Wushue. The rest of them couldn't. You actually want to deal with me alone? Li Wushu reached out his keratinized palm and used it to block Rain's scythe slash. So hard. Rain's eyes shrank. Under the attack of her scythe, even an elite class 3 high-tier demonic beast wouldn't be able to withstand it with its body. But Li Wushue withstood it with ease. Swish. With his right hand blocking Rain's scythe slash, Li Wushue's left hand elongated like a black spear and pierced towards Rain's chest. Rain was indeed a 6-star bone frame, as she had also grasped the light body technique intent. Turning into an afterimage, she retreated. But when she looked down, the clothes on her chest had a tear. Half of her breasts were revealed and a drop of fresh blood dripped down. After devouring Song Qinghe's blood essence, his ability is much stronger than the other demon spirits. Rain thought to herself. With Rain dealing with Li Wushue, Li Fuchen and the others had a much easier time. No matter how strong Fu Chongshan was, he was only comparable to Su Muyu. But the current Li Fuchen's ability wasn't much inferior to the previous Fu Chongshan. With the addition of Fan Qiansong and Wei Shanhe who were on par with him, the three of them worked together to fight against Fu Chongshan brilliantly and even subtly suppressed him. As for Fan Qinyu, she assisted the three of them in their attacks. With a steel umbrella in her hands, she could attack and defend at the same time and wasn't in much danger. But right at this moment, an unexpected scene happened. The tip of the umbrella pierced into Fan Qiansong's back and came out from his chest, causing fresh blood to spurt out. Turning his head, Fan Qiansong stared at Fan Qinyu and couldn't understand. Sister, you? Fan Qinyu laughed. Sister? Who is your sister? Li Fuchen felt a chill in his heart as he shouted, she has been possessed by a demon spirit. The scene he was most worried about had happened. The blue flame of desolate blood could incinerate the body of a demon spirit, but it couldn't injure or exterminate the demon spirit. You shall die too. Wei Shanhe gave up on attacking Fu Chongshan and swung his right hand. A dark green whip lashed at Li Fuchen. Li Fuchen retreated and dodged the whip. Wei Shanhe has been possessed too. Li Fuchen's heart sank. Even though he didn't know the exact process of possession, it was probably related to one's spirit will. Those with a weak spirit will would be easily possessed. Which was why Fan Qinyu and Wei Shanhe were possessed, but Li Fuchen and Fan Qiansong weren't. Originally there were only 2 demon spirits left, but now there were 4 of them. With the addition of another demon spirit that was lurking in the dark, the situation was extremely dire. What should I do? Li Fuchen pushed his maneuvers to the limits and dodged every attack from the demon spirit. Now that his cultivation was at the 3rd level of the Earth realm, his light body technique was even more incredible. Wait for an opportunity to leave. The moment when Li Fuchen crossed paths with Su Muyu, her voice was transmitted into Li Fuchen's ears. Their light body techniques were incredible and were barely able to contend against each other. Clenching his fist, Li Fuchen wasn't willing to give up. He didn't want to leave Fan Qiansong and Fan Qianyu behind. But now, he couldn't even protect himself. Go. Su Muyu couldn't be bothered with the others. With a flash, she skimmed towards the entrance of the hall. But right at this moment, an extremely intense cold wind blew in from the entrance. There was a faint silhouette of a tall human figure that could be seen. Su Muyu's face turned pale as she flew backwards again. Master. Chapter 219. Master? Li Fuchen and Rain looked at each other. An existence that could make a demon spirit call master was naturally an existence that was higher than them. If the demon spirit was a Class 6 demonic beast when it was alive, wouldn't the master of a Class 6 demonic beast be a Class 7 demonic beast or an expert that surpassed the battle spirit realm? Before they came, they did not doubt him, thinking that the cemetery on the map was the cemetery of the shedding body realm martial artist. If they had known that this tomb was so terrifying, they would have thought twice and would not have barged in so recklessly. The chilly wind whistled, freezing one's heart and soul. Right now, Li Fuchen and Rain found it hard to move as their muscles were stiff. I can't resist it. Is this person a demon spirit or the true spirit of an expert? Li Fuchen was still conscious. From what he knew, Class 6 demonic beasts were able to produce demon spirits while battle spirit realm experts were able to produce true spirits. If a soul loses its body, it will dissipate. However, if a demon spirit or true spirit was born, the soul could last for a very long time. Under special circumstances, it was even possible for the soul to last for thousands of years. Perhaps there was something in this graveyard that could nourish demon spirits and true spirits, allowing demon spirits and true spirits from countless years ago to be preserved. How many years has it been? I can't even remember. This tomb has finally been found. In the cold wind, the human-shaped shadow sighed. That hoarse and cold voice made people shudder. Master, with these bodies, we can walk out of the tomb and create glory again. Fu Chong knelt on the ground and said respectfully. Li Wuxia said, back then, all the super experts were either banished or killed. Now that we're out, it won't take long for us to become invincible. No power will be able to stop us. With endless resources, it's only a matter of time before we return to the peak. The human-shaped shadow said coldly, if I hadn't been ganged up on, how could I have been destroyed to the point where only my true spirit was left? Fortunately, I was prepared and built a tomb here. Otherwise, after so many years, I would have long disappeared. The two of you, get out of your bodies, the humanoid illusory figure continued. He was obviously speaking to Wei Shanhe and Fan Qianyu. As for Li Wuxia and Fu Chongshan, their bodies had long been corroded by the demonic aura, and there was no way to reverse it. Yes. The two demon spirits retreated from Wei Shanhe and Fan Qianyu's bodies. Bang. Wei Shanhe and Fan Qianyu were lying on the ground, unconscious. The boundless chilly wind converged as the human-shaped illusory figure turned into a spot of light and shot into Fan Qianyu's glabella. For star bone frame. Too weak. His soul spirit isn't that strong either. He isn't even worth anything. Fan Qianyu said indifferently. He's choosing a body? Li Fuchen and Su Muyu were appalled. The two of them wanted to move, but they couldn't move at all. An incomparably cold power had wrapped around them. The speck of light seeped out and plunged into Wei Shanhe's glabella. This body is even worse. It is basically impossible to return to the pinnacle with the help of his body. At most, he can only reach the battle spirit realm. Wei Shanhe frowned. He looked at Fan Qiansong, and a light shot out. This body is still all right. It has a 5-star bone frame and a rather strong soul spirit. It might be a huge gap from my previous self, but with the memories of my previous self, it shouldn't be difficult to return to the pinnacle. But the other two bodies seem to be better. Good things should always be left for last. Fan Qiansong looked at Su Muyu and Li Fuchen with a strange gaze. Class 6 demonic beasts' demon spirits would usually choose the weaker ones to take over. If the spirit will was too strong, it wouldn't be able to take over the body in an instant. Instead, it might even be injured by the opponent's spirit will. These two spirit wills were undoubtedly the strongest. It was so strong that Class 6 demonic beasts didn't even dare to test it out. Li Fuchen's forehead was filled with beads of cold sweat. In his soul spirit, the golden amulet was revolving at an unprecedented intensity, as though it sensed danger. What should I do? Li Fuchen didn't want to become the carrier of another's true spirit. It was worse than death. Even though he didn't know if his consciousness would still exist after the other party took over his body. Or perhaps he was just suppressed by the other party. But no matter what, it wasn't a good thing. As Fan Qiansong collapsed, Su Muyu suddenly let out a scream. The current Su Muyu wasn't as calm and composed as before. Her face was filled with fear, despair, and a trace of struggle. Such a strong bone frame, such a strong soul spirit. Even though I am superior to a regular true spirit, I am still unable to take over her body in an instant. This is too wonderful, too wonderful. Su Mu grinned and laughed. Don't even think about taking over my body. Su Muyu's eyes revealed an unyielding look. This unyielding look suppressed the fear and despair. If I was only a battle spirit realm true spirit, I might really be suppressed by you. A pity that I am not a battle spirit realm true spirit. As time elapsed, Su Muyu's eyes grew dimmer. Her chi presence was gradually disappearing and was replaced by a gloomy and cold chi presence. Su Muyu, wake up. At this moment, Li Fuchen was finally able to speak and shouted. Su Muyu didn't react. After a few breaths, Su Muyu turned around and looked at Li Fuchen. It's strange. Your willpower seems to be stronger than hers, but your body's aura isn't as pure as hers. I really don't know if I should take over your body. Rain was a little hesitant. Seizing a body consumed a lot of true spirit. It wasn't a big deal to seize a body with a weak spirit will, but seizing Su Muyu's body with a strong spirit will would exhaust some of his true spirit. He was worried that if he seized Li Fuchen's body, the gains wouldn't make up for the losses and he would exhaust a portion of his true spirit for nothing. After all, willpower was something that could be nurtured later in life. It did not mean that one's innate potential was great. Looks like after so many years, my courage has shrunk. If I don't try, how would I know if his aptitude is poor? Perhaps his aptitude is what I've been dreaming of. Rain licked her lips, her eyes filled with greed. A light spot skimmed out and entered Li Fuchen's forehead. The next moment, Rain's eyes were tightly shut, and she fell to the ground, unconscious. The light spot arrived at Li Fuchen's mind. It turned into a human-shaped shadow. Looking at Li Fuchen's pale blue soul spirit, the human-shaped shadow shuddered. What class of soul spirit is this? Why does it have color? Such a wonderful chi presence. This soul spirit is too pure. Is this still a human soul spirit? Get out of my body. In his mind, Li Fuchen's figure appeared. This was his consciousness. Under the pressure of the human-shaped shadow, his consciousness revealed itself and did something that Earth Realm martial artists and even Heaven Realm martial artists couldn't do. Consciousness revealed itself. Seems like you are indeed the most special one. The human-shaped shadow grinned. He still wasn't able to check Li Fuchen's bone frame, but just based on Li Fuchen's soul spirit, he decided to give up on Rain and choose this person's body. With this powerful soul spirit, he had a feeling that he could easily surpass the peak, let alone returning to the peak. Get out. A sword appeared in Li Fuchen's hand as he slashed at the human-shaped shadow. Your spirit will is indeed strong, but it can't do anything to me. The human-shaped shadow sent out a fist and sent Li Fuchen flying. Get out. Chapter 220. Interesting. I reckon that taking over your body will consume half of my true spirit. But what's there to be concerned about? Your body is the true priceless treasure. The human-shaped illusory figure punched out with a gigantic fist. This fist felt as though it was going to fill up Li Fuchen's entire mind. Bang! The long sword shattered and Li Fuchen was sent flying. Such a powerful force. Li Fuchen was panting violently. The long sword was formed from his consciousness. Now that the long sword had shattered, his consciousness had dissipated a little. Extinguish! The human-shaped shadow's body expanded and was indomitable. Immediately after, fist after fist was smashed at Li Fuchen with terrifying prowess. Li Fuchen was like an ant that was sent flying without any ability to resist. I have experienced the dissipation of my spirit soul. I will not give up even if I die. If it was someone else, they would have already given up resisting. Once they gave up resisting, their spirit willpower would weaken. But Li Fuchen had an obsession in his heart. This obsession had condensed into a sword that was filled with cold qi. Li Fuchen's sword pierced a hole on the human-shaped shadow's fist. "You actually injured me," the human-shaped shadow roared. When the true spirit was exhausted, it could be slowly recovered. But when the true spirit was injured, it would be extremely difficult to recover and it would be detrimental to his future cultivation. It might just be a small injury, but it was enough to infuriate him. "You have a sword, so do I." A giant sword appeared in the human-shaped shadow's hand as it slashed at Li Fuchen. Swish! Li Fuchen felt as though his mind was about to be split open. This sword was condensed to the extremity. Crackle! The sword formed by the obsession was shattered. Li Fuchen's figure was blurry and there were traces of mist that drifted away. This was a sign that his consciousness was about to collapse. "I am unwilling. I am unwilling," Li Fuchen murmured. "My strength isn't strong enough, but why is my spirit willpower so weak? So what if it is a true spirit that exceeds the battle spirit realm? Li Fuchen will never admit defeat. I will not admit defeat even if I die." Li Fuchen's consciousness condensed again. But this time, the consciousness wasn't Li Fuchen's figure, but a sword that was filled with dense sword qi. The sword contained Li Fuchen's spirit will, consciousness, and that unresolvable obsession. This sword was Li Fuchen's full strength. He had already forgotten himself, forgotten everything. The only thought in his mind was to fight to the end and swear to die without regrets. With the union of man and sword, Li Fuchen blasted towards the human-shaped shadow. The humanoid shadow brandished his sword to block. With the union of man and sword, Li Fuchen's movements were extremely agile. He easily dodged the human-shaped shadow's sword and immediately penetrated the human-shaped shadow's body. The humanoid figure threw his head back and roared. There was a huge hole in his chest, and the true spirits inside had all been destroyed. The injuries he suffered this time were 10 times or even dozens of times worse than before. What made him even more infuriated was that he, a true spirit that surpassed the battle spirit realm, was actually injured by a little brat. This was simply a slap to his face and it was an extreme humiliation. "You have completely infuriated me." The human-shaped shadow shrunk and released a horrific true spirit pressure that enveloped Li Fuchen's sword. The true spirit pressure could only be released by burning the true spirit power. Furthermore, only true spirits that surpassed the battle spirit realm were able to do it. The true spirit pressure had the effect of freezing the void and contained a trace of heaven and earth law. When enveloped by the true spirit pressure, Li Fuchen's sword couldn't budge. Crackle! When the sword was brandished, Li Fuchen's sword was shattered. It meant that Li Fuchen's consciousness had also been shattered. "A mere brat dares to be so impudent in front of me. Don't blame me for erasing your consciousness." The human-shaped shadow sneered. He had only restrained the consciousness of the first few individuals as he was planning to slowly search through their memories. But this person's consciousness had already been erased by him and not even a god could save him. Looking at the pale blue spirit soul, the human-shaped shadow couldn't help but praise. If he could absorb such a powerful spirit soul, his perception would reach an unimaginable level. By then, no one would be able to destroy him. With a flash, the human-shaped shadow floated towards the pale blue spirit soul. From start to end, he didn't see the existence of the golden amulet. The golden amulet was something that only Li Fuchen could see. Bang! Just as he was about to enter the pale blue spirit soul, there was a sudden release of golden light and the human-shaped shadow was sent flying. The pale blue spirit soul was gradually turning transparent while the golden amulet was emitting boundless golden light. Under the illumination of the golden light, Li Fuchen's disintegrated consciousness had signs of reassembling. At the same moment, the human-shaped shadow couldn't budge. Golden amulet, what is this thing? The human-shaped shadow was appalled. He was a true spirit that surpassed the battle spirit realm but was actually suppressed and couldn't budge at all. Mere ants dare to lay their hands on the body and spirit soul of the person that I have chosen. You are courting death. The golden amulet spoke for the first time. Who are you? The human-shaped shadow was shivering. This feeling was even more fearful than facing the great Tao of heaven and earth. The great Tao of heaven and earth was high above and could only be felt but not seen. The golden amulet gave him a feeling that it was above the great Tao of heaven and earth. Mere ants aren't qualified to know of my existence. Extinguish. The golden light was intense and melted the human-shaped shadow. I am not resigned to this. In the blink of the eye, the human-shaped shadow melted into a drop of liquid that was emitting a faint radiance. This drop of liquid was extremely pure. Even if it was magnified by 1 billion times, there wouldn't be any trace of impurities. The moment the human-shaped shadow melted, Li Fuchen's consciousness was restored again. Didn't my consciousness dissipate? The moment his consciousness was destroyed, Li Fuchen felt that everything had sunk into darkness. Immediately after, he lost all consciousness. After sizing up his consciousness body, Li Fuchen realized that his consciousness was 10 times more condensed than before. This condensing wasn't caused by the spirit will, it was the body itself. The spirit will and consciousness weren't absolutely related. It was correct to have a powerful spirit will and a powerful consciousness. But a powerful consciousness didn't mean that the spirit will was also powerful. Just like before, Li Fuchen's consciousness might not be inferior to a heaven realm martial artist, but his spirit will was actually inferior to a heaven realm martial artist. This drop of liquid? Li Fuchen shifted his eyes away from his consciousness body and looked at that drop of liquid in his mind. This drop of liquid was extremely pure and had an endless attraction force that made Li Fuchen want to devour it. Step by step, Li Fuchen approached it. Just as Li Fuchen was one body away from the liquid automatically entered Li Fuchen's consciousness body. In the next moment, Li Fuchen's consciousness crumbled and reconstructed again. Time was already meaningless because Li Fuchen couldn't feel the elapse of time. It was unknown how much time had passed, but Li Fuchen's consciousness body finally stopped crumbling and reconstructing. A faint radiance was emitted from Li Fuchen's consciousness body. My consciousness is more than 100 times more condensed. Li Fuchen was stunned. Chapter 221. What were the benefits of having a strong consciousness? There were too many of them. With a stronger consciousness, Li Fuchen's perception grew stronger as well. With a stronger consciousness, Li Fuchen felt that his ability to think was stronger. And thinking was deeply related to perception. Opening his eyes, Li Fuchen woke up. Congratulations, Master. Seeing that Li Fuchen had woken up, Li Wuxia and the other 5 demon spirits congratulated in unison. Although Li Fuchen's chi presence didn't seem to be their masters, they didn't think that their master would fail. Li Fuchen spoke indifferently, "Your master is dead." "You want my master?" "Impossible." Li Wuxia and the other demon spirits revealed an expression of disbelief. Master is dead? Their master might only be left with his true spirit. But his true spirit was still very weak when compared to his master's prime. But it should be absolutely safe to possess an Earth Realm martial artist. Even if it was a Heaven Realm martial artist with his master's ability, he should be able to possess successfully. Li Wuxia and Fu Chongshan lunged at Li Fuchen. Clang. The sword was unsheathed and the sword light was bent. Li Wuxia and Fu Chongshan's attacks seemed to have sunk into a quagmire. They didn't even have 30% to 40% of their original strength, which was easily blocked by Li Fuchen. His powerful consciousness allowed Li Fuchen to instantly determine the attack trajectories of Li Wuxia and Fu Chongshan. He then took the initiative to intercept their attacks, preventing them from using their full strength. He actually blocked our combined attack. Fu Chongshan was shocked. Previously, his opponent's ability was still much weaker than his. What exactly happened that allowed his opponent's ability to increase so much? PFFF. The 9 revolution sword style could be used for defense and also for counterattack. With 9 revolutions, it was enough to neutralize any force and return all the force back. To a certain extent, the stronger the opponent's attack, the more force it would have to withstand. 2 sword lights were reflected, causing Li Wuxia and Fu Chongshan to spurt out blood. How can he be so incredible? Li Wuxia and Fu Chongshan were stunned. How could they know that Li Fuchen's awareness was greatly enhanced? His sword moves might not have any changes, but his combat skills were more than 2-fold stronger. He was able to utilize 20% of his strength. After repelling the 2 demon spirits, Li Fuchen first launched an intense attack at Fu Chongshan. Once the Starfire sword style was executed, every Starfire had its own spirituality. It was extremely crafty and vicious, scorching bloody holes on Fu Chongshan's body. Soundlessly, a transparent demon beast silhouette floated out of Fu Chongshan's body. You can see it? Li Fuchen's eyes lit up. Previously, he couldn't see the demon spirit, and the tomb owner's true spirit was probably intentionally allowed to be seen. He didn't expect that after his consciousness increased, he would be able to see demon spirits directly. Since he could see the demon spirit, it made things easier. Li Fuchen used the rotating flow sword style to blast at the demon spirit. Demon spirits weren't afraid of ordinary attacks, but they were afraid of martial Dao intent. When Li Fuchen's rotating flow sword intent blasted on the demon spirit, it instantly distorted. But it was obvious that Li Fuchen's sword intent wasn't able to severely injure the demon spirit. Therefore, it was impossible to eliminate them in a short period of time. Since that is the case, let me try my consciousness. Li Fuchen's consciousness swept out and rushed at the demon spirit. The demon spirit flickered before it suddenly dissipated. Success! Li Fuchen revealed a delighted expression. He didn't expect his consciousness to be able to attack demon spirits. After all, the tomb owner's true spirit had entered his mind, which was why he was able to use his consciousness to fight. He had never tried it in the outside world. But he didn't understand that a regular person's consciousness wouldn't be able to shake the demon spirit, but his consciousness was extremely tenacious, which was why he was able to eliminate the demon spirit. Seeing Li Fuchen eliminate one of the demon spirits, the other 3 floating demon spirits panicked and quickly wanted to burrow into the bodies of the 3 people nearby. How could Li Fuchen allow them to do as they wished? His consciousness rushed out in a fan shape, causing the 3 demon spirits to dissipate. Finally, only Li Wuxia was left. Li Wuxia had the intention to retreat. With a flash, he skimmed towards the outside of the hall. Where are you going? Li Fuchen's consciousness rushed over. Li Wuxia's body shook for a moment before he continued to flee. It seems like my consciousness can only target pure demon spirits and true spirits. It isn't able to target demon spirits with bodies. Li Fuchen understood and executed his movement technique to chase after Li Wuxia. After Li Wuxia left, Su Muyu, Wei Shanhe, Fan Qiansong, and Fan Qinyu slowly woke up. What happened? Fan Qinyu didn't understand. Where is Li Fuchen? Su Muyu frowned. She only remembered that the tomb owner's true spirit burrowed into her body and she fought with him for the body. After that, she didn't know anything else. Outside the hall, Li Wuxia was flying at lightning speed, much faster than Li Fuchen. Come down. Li Fuchen executed the Starfire sword style. The sky full of sparks seemed to have their own consciousness, as they scorched chicken egg-sized blood holes on Li Wuxia's body. Risk it. For a moment, Li Wuxia wasn't able to shake off Li Fuchen. If he continued to flee, he would only become a target. Turning around, Li Wuxia pounced at Li Fuchen. He wasn't afraid of getting injured. At most, he would just lose this body. But as long as Li Fuchen was injured, he still had a chance. Li Wuxia attacked Li Fuchen in a frenzy, using the method of exchanging life for life. It was a pity that Li Fuchen's every move wasn't able to hide from Li Fuchen's awareness. Li Fuchen was able to instantly determine countless ways to counter Li Fuchen's every move. Every time, Li Fuchen would have the feeling that Li Fuchen had the strength but wasn't able to use it. Furthermore, the injuries on Li Fuchen's body would increase. With a flash of a sword light, Li Wushue's head flew up. A phantom of a demonic beast drilled out. Die! Just as Li Fuchen was waiting for his opponent to come out, his consciousness rushed out and with a PFFF, the demon spirit vanished. After killing the last demon spirit, Li Fuchen let out a breath of relief. If he didn't kill his opponent, he wouldn't be at ease. The demon spirit was a Class 6 demonic beast when it was alive. If he allowed it to continue growing, he would definitely be the one to die. With a suction force, Li Wushue's corpse's storage bag flew into his hand. Li Fuchen then turned and rushed towards the hall. Inside the hall, Su Muyu and the others were all present. Li Fuchen, is that you? Fan Qiansong and Fan Qinyu weren't too sure. Of course it's me. Li Fuchen replied. What happened next? The one who asked was Su Muyu. Li Fuchen replied, I am not too sure either. He naturally wouldn't tell the truth. Su Muyu frowned and didn't continue asking. Her intuition told her that everything was definitely related to Li Fuchen. It seemed like he was hiding a huge secret. It's good that you are fine. You scared me to death just now. Fan Qiansong quickly sat cross-legged and consumed a recuperation pill. He then began to circulate his qi to recuperate. Li Fuchen let out a breath and continued to study his consciousness. If it was in the past, his consciousness would need to be released along with his qi. But now, he didn't need to use his qi and could directly release it. Furthermore, the range was rather far and it was enough to detect things that were a few hundred meters away. After some time, Fan Qiansong's injuries recovered slightly. Next, the five of them walked out of the hall and prepared to find an exit from the tomb. Chapter 222. Following the original path, the five of them finally exited the tomb. Turning back to look at the metal gate of the tomb, the five of them had lingering fears. The path of the martial Dao was too dangerous. Who would have thought that they were so close to being possessed? Even though they had left the tomb, the five of them knew that the tomb was only a small part of the land of fog. Only by exiting the land of fog would they be truly safe. Along the way, the five of them encountered another giant bat beast. The giant bat beast was a Class 3 high-tier demonic beast. Before they came, it required 11 of them to work together to deal with it. During that time, they mainly relied on Rain's strength. But now, Li Fuchen and Rain were able to completely suppress the giant bat beast. And this was because Li Fuchen didn't use his full strength. In terms of attack power, Li Fuchen was much weaker than Rain. But in terms of ability, the current him had undoubtedly surpassed Rain. His ability? Rain wasn't a fool, she could see the changes in Li Fuchen's ability. Li Fuchen's speed and strength didn't have any changes, but his combat skills were exceptional. As he strolled in the courtyard, the sword in his hand left wounds on the body of the giant bat beast. Every wound was as though it was measured with a ruler, not an inch too long or short. If I were to fight with him, I would probably lose to him. Even though she didn't want to admit it, Rain didn't want to lie to herself. In terms of combat skills, she was still inferior to Li Fuchen. Li Fuchen's every move had a purpose. It wasn't an instinctive reaction of the body, nor was it a sudden thought. From the start to the end, it was as though he was putting on a show and everything was under his control. Fearsome awareness? Rain couldn't help but frown. After dealing with the giant bat beast, the five of them continued forward. Soon enough, the five of them arrived at the edge of the fog. With just a slight hesitation, the five of them still walked into the fog. In the fog, one couldn't even see their fingers in front of them, only their perception could be used. Apart from Li Fuchen, the rest of them only had a perception range of a few dozen meters. Li Fuchen was different. After releasing his awareness, his perception range was a few hundred meters. Anyone or any demonic beast that entered this range would immediately be detected by him. This walk took them more than 10 days. After 10 days, the fog gradually thinned and the naked eye could now see a few dozen meters. This was the range of perception. We are leaving the land of fog. Wei Shanhe was overjoyed. It's our luck to be able to make it out alive. This trip to the graveyard is worth remembering forever. Fan Qiansong sighed. Half a day passed, and there was no longer any mist around them. At this time, it was time to part ways. Before leaving, Su Mu transmitted a message to Li Fuchen. In the tomb, I owe you a favor. I will repay you in the future. She believed that it was Li Fuchen who saved everyone. Li Fuchen smiled and didn't say anything. After Wei Shanhe and Rain left, Fan Qiansong said to Li Fuchen, "Let's find a city to stay in." Sure. Li Fuchen nodded. He really needed time to digest what he had obtained from the graveyard. A few days later, the trio arrived at the nearest city, Autumn Rain City. This was an ownerless city, and the order of the city was controlled by the three great families. After staying in an inn with a courtyard in the Autumn Rain City, Li Fuchen and the others went into seclusion. The incomplete sword essence secret technique had immense power. Even if he only cultivated the black iron sword essence, it was enough for Li Fuchen's ability to skyrocket. The trip to the graveyard made Li Fuchen understand that his ability was still too weak. If he didn't quickly increase his ability, he might not be as lucky the next time he went on an adventure. He vaguely knew that the two masters' true spirit was probably destroyed by the golden amulet. Only the golden amulet had the ability to do so. The inn that occupied an area of 100 hectares had hundreds of courtyards. Li Fuchen and the others each picked a courtyard. In one of the courtyards, Li Fuchen sat cross-legged and was comprehending the black iron sword essence. Sword essence used the bone marrow as a sword to condense sword patterns. Sword patterns were a type of tool patterns. But in order to condense sword patterns, one must first understand sword patterns. In the black iron sword essence, there was a huge amount of sword pattern knowledge. Li Fuchen felt that if he could comprehend the black iron sword essence, he might be able to condense sword patterns on his artifact sword and become a sword pattern master. Sword pattern masters and sword forgers were related, but they weren't the same. Sword pattern masters could condense sword patterns, but they didn't necessarily know how to forge swords. But sword forgers could forge swords and also condense sword patterns. Of course, pure sword pattern masters were in the minority. Some swordsmen who couldn't improve on their sword Dao would choose to learn sword patterns to see if they could advance to the next level. So complicated. In the black iron sword essence, there were over 800 types of yellow class, low-tier sword patterns. In order to comprehend the black iron sword essence, one would first need to grasp over 800 types of yellow class, low-tier sword patterns. After grasping over 800 types of yellow class, low-tier sword patterns, one would need to combine them into over 200 types of yellow class, mid-tier sword patterns. These 200 types of yellow class, mid-tier sword patterns would then be combined into 48 types of yellow class, high-tier sword patterns, 9 types of yellow class, peak-tier sword patterns, and 1 type of mystic class, low-tier sword pattern. This type of mystic class, low-tier sword pattern was the black iron sword pattern. With Li Fuchen's strong awareness and exceptional deduction ability, coupled with his astounding perception, he spent a week to finally grasp over 800 types of yellow class, low-tier sword patterns. If he wanted to now, he could condense a sword pattern on a sword. Let me try the process of condensing a sword pattern. Li Fuchen broke off a branch from a large tree in the courtyard. He held onto the branch and poured his qi into it. On the branch that had the thickness of 2 fingers, there were straight patterns that extended out. The patterns were emitting a faint glow, causing the branch to look different from the rest, as though it was a work of art. In the blink of the eye, the patterns on the branch vanished. Holding onto the branch, Li Fuchen thrusted it into the air. At this moment, Li Fuchen could clearly feel the sharpness of the branch. A sharpness that only an artifact sword would have. It had the feeling of turning something rotten into something magical. But the branch automatically crumbled and turned into a pile of sawdust. Li Fuchen didn't mind and thought to himself, tool patterns are extremely domineering. The material must be tough enough, otherwise it would not be able to bear the tool pattern. It is the same for sword patterns. Breaking off another branch, Li Fuchen changed it to a yellow class, low-tier sword pattern. The sword pattern was condensed. The branch in his hand still had the sharpness, but the sharpness was secondary. The hardness of the branch was obviously a few folds tougher than the previous branch. It was as hard as a metal rod. But even though it was tough, it couldn't last for long and the branch still crumbled. There are over 800 types of yellow class, low-tier sword patterns. In summary, there are only a few types of effects, but there are some subtle differences. I wonder what are yellow class, mid-tier sword patterns like? Li Fuchen was much more interested in sword patterns, as though he had seen a whole new world. After spending another week, Li Fuchen grasped over 200 types of yellow class, mid-tier sword patterns. A yellow class, mid-tier sword pattern was formed by combining a few yellow class, low-tier sword patterns. It was more perfect and stronger than a yellow class, low-tier sword pattern. But it was also more domineering. The branch was unable to bear the weight of a yellow class, mid-tier sword pattern. Before the formation was completed, the branch would crumble or even explode. At this moment, it was necessary to use a tougher wood or metal to condense the sword pattern. Chapter 223. To be serious, Li Fuchen was only learning sword patterns and not comprehending them. There were over 800 types of yellow class, low-tier sword patterns. Li Fuchen wasn't very clear on the theory behind each of them, but with a few combinations he could form countless yellow class, mid-tier sword patterns. But Li Fuchen had only learned over 200 types of yellow class, mid-tier sword patterns from the Black Iron Sword Essence chapter. He didn't intend to become a sword pattern master or sword pattern grandmaster in a short period of time anyway. He just needed to condense the Black Iron Sword pattern. If he wanted to comprehend it completely, this amount of time wasn't enough. Li Fuchen didn't have much time to waste on comprehending sword patterns. In the courtyard, pieces of yellow class metals were placed. They ranged from yellow class, low-tier to yellow class, peak tier. These were purchased by Li Fuchen in Autumn Rain City for the sake of learning and condensing sword patterns. Arriving in front of a piece of yellow class, low-tier metal, Li Fuchen extended his hand and pulled the metal into his hand. Executing the iron smelting hand, this piece of yellow class, low-tier metal turned red and soft at a speed visible to the naked eye. After a dozen breaths, an unfinished sword appeared in Li Fuchen's hand. In a single breath, Li Fuchen used the iron smelting hand to create a dozen unfinished swords. The reason why it was called an unfinished sword was because the outer appearance was too coarse and there weren't any condensed sword patterns inside. Alright, I can try out the yellow class, mid-tier sword pattern now. Even though there wasn't a need to completely comprehend the sword pattern, it was necessary to know the characteristics of the sword pattern. It was just like obtaining an item, you had to know what it was used for and what it was used for. As for its structure, it wasn't that easy to understand. Holding on to the unfinished sword, Li Fuchen began to condense the sword pattern. Visible to the naked eye, straight patterns that emitted a faint glow appeared on the unfinished sword. These patterns were either vertical or horizontal, but each of them were incomparably upright. As the patterns faded, the unfinished sword in Li Fuchen's hand suddenly doubled in weight. The coarse unfinished sword now had a sharpness that it never had before. All sword patterns had a characteristic, which was sharpness. If a certain sword pattern didn't have this characteristic, then it wasn't considered a true sword pattern. Li Fuchen had a slight understanding of it. There wasn't a need to experiment with every single yellow class, mid-tier sword pattern. After experimenting with 7 or 8 types, Li Fuchen began to learn how to combine yellow class, high-tier sword patterns. The yellow class high-tier sword pattern contained a few types of yellow class mid-tier sword patterns and over 10 types of yellow class low-tier sword patterns. Its patterns were even more complicated, and it wasn't vertical or horizontal anymore. It started to have diagonal patterns. But when Li Fuchen tried to condense the yellow class high-tier sword pattern onto the yellow class low-tier sword, the yellow class low-tier sword immediately cracked. Looks like low-tier yellow class metal's limit is mid-tier yellow class tool patterns. Anything beyond that is impossible. Li Fuchen thought to himself. Switching to a yellow class mid-tier unfinished sword, Li Fuchen began to condense yellow class high-tier sword patterns. The moment the sword pattern was completely condensed, a cold light flashed across the sword billets. This unfinished sword began to have the aura of a sword and was no longer a piece of scrap metal. Yellow-class high-tier sword patterns are already so mystical. I wonder how mystical peak-tier and mystic-class low-tier sword patterns would be. Li Fuchen's interest increased day by day, almost forgetting the time. The pale blue soul spirit allowed Li Fuchen's perception to be extremely strong, allowing him to comprehend anything quickly. With his powerful awareness, Li Fuchen's deduction ability was outstanding, allowing him to find countless ideas from the sword patterns that he learned previously. In less than a month's time, Li Fuchen finally grasped 9 types of yellow-class peak-tier sword patterns. Now, he only lacked the last mystic-class low-tier sword pattern, which was the black iron sword pattern. Once he learned the black iron sword pattern, he could attempt to condense the sword pattern on his bone marrow and cultivate the black iron sword essence. Once the black iron sword essence was formed, he could casually release sword chi. What Li Fuchen didn't know was that when he was comprehending the incomplete sword essence manual in Autumn Rain City, the Heaven Fiend sect patriarch was going crazy. The Heaven Fiend sect patriarch placed a secret technique on Li Wuxia's body. This secret technique was a mother-child secret technique. It had a connection with the Heaven Fiend sect patriarch. 2 months ago, when Li Wuxia died, the Heaven Fiend sect patriarch found out and personally rushed over to the 100 Battle region. He was currently searching for relevant information in the 100 Battle region. A pity that the 100 Battle region was too big and had more cities than the Heaven Fiend region. Without a choice, the Heaven Fiend sect patriarch dispatched a large number of Heaven Realm and Earth Realm martial artists to search for information in the 100 Battle region. He had to know how Li Wuxia died. No matter who killed Li Wuxia, he wanted the culprit to pay in blood. Finally, a few days ago, he found out that Li Wuxia came to Blood Color City. Blood Color City. Ma Clan. In the Ma Clan's Grand Hall, Ma Tianba and Ma Tianyang were shivering. They didn't even dare to look at the Heaven Fiend sect patriarch who was seated at the host seat. What kind of existence was a reincarnation realm martial artist? Don't even mention a single Ma clan. Even if there were 10 Ma clans or 100 Ma clans, they still wouldn't be enough to be crushed. A faction without a reincarnation realm martial artist was undoubtedly an ant in front of a reincarnation realm martial artist. An ant that could be casually stepped on. Young Master Li did come to Blood Color City, but he left soon after. We don't know who killed him? Ma Tianba lowered his head and said. The Heaven Fiend sect patriarch had an indifferent expression on his face. Do you know who he had a grudge with? Ma Tianba replied. He once asked my Ma clan to issue an arrest warrant for a person named Li Fuchen. He is a direct disciple of the Azure Water sect. Because of this incident, an inner sect elder from the Azure Water sect specially came to our Ma clan to warn us. Azure Water sect. The Heaven Fiend sect patriarch's eyes flashed with a frightening cold light. Do you know where is that Li Fuchen? He didn't care if Li Fuchen was the murderer or not. He would rather kill 1,000 innocents than to let off any suspicious individuals. To him, it was enough to have a suspicion. I don't know. He should have left Blood Color City before young Master Li. Ma Tianba replied honestly. He didn't dare to hide anything. Either the Azure Water sect or the Heaven Fiend sect was a titan to his Ma clan. He couldn't afford to offend the Heaven Fiend sect because of the Azure Water sect, nor could he afford to offend the Azure Water sect because of the Heaven Fiend sect. He could only speak the truth and believe that the Azure Water sect wouldn't find trouble with his Ma clan just because he spoke the truth. I hope you are speaking the truth. If not, don't blame me for being merciless. Waving his hand, the Heaven Fiend sect patriarch spoke coldly. You may leave. Yes. Ma Tianba and Ma Tianyang left respectfully. Right now, they didn't even realize that this was the Ma clan. Why did the Heaven Fiend sect patriarch treat this place as his home ground? Of course, even if they realized it, they couldn't do anything about it. Their only thought was to hope that the Heaven Fiend sect patriarch would leave quickly so that they wouldn't have to worry. After Ma Tianba and Ma Tianyang left, a Heaven Realm martial artist from the Heaven Fiend sect walked in. Sect Patriarch, there is the latest news. Our Heaven Fiend sect's direct disciple, Su Heishan, came to look for young sect Patriarch. It was because of Su Heishan's visit that young sect patriarch left Blood Color City. The Heaven Realm martial artist spoke. The Heaven Fiend sect patriarch nodded and spoke in a stern tone, "Pass down the order. The entire 100 Battle region is to issue a bounty for the Azure Water sect's direct disciple, Li Fuchen. Anyone who can provide accurate information will be rewarded with 10 million gold coins. Wouldn't this cause the Azure Water sect to retaliate?" the man asked. Chapter 224. Li Fuchen naturally didn't know that he was wanted by the Heaven Fiend sect. In fact, Li Wushue's death had nothing to do with him. He might have wanted to kill him, but he ultimately died in the hands of a demon spirit. After spending half a month, Li Fuchen finally combined the 9 yellow class, peak tier sword patterns into the black iron sword pattern. The black iron sword pattern was extremely complex and contained a trace of heaven and earth's mysticism. Taking out a yellow class, peak tier unfinished sword, Li Fuchen began to condense the black iron sword pattern on it. Visible to the naked eye, patterns that emitted a black brilliance slowly crawled up the surface of the unfinished sword. Some of these patterns were straight like swords, some were curved like sabers, and some were densely packed like tadpoles. At the same time, there was a strange wave that rippled out. This time, Li Fuchen took a full 10 hours to complete the condensation. The moment the condensation was completed, the sword chi surged through the unfinished sword. The unfinished sword's weight instantly increased by 5 times and wasn't as light as before. So this is the black iron sword pattern? As the sword pattern faded, the unfinished sword in Li Fuchen's hand had a drastic change. The parts that weren't sharpened seemed to be much sharper. There was a chilling flash that made it look like an unfinished sword and had the aura of an artifact sword. It might not be comparable to the sword pattern on the black gold sword, but it is much more comprehensive. The black gold sword pattern contained sharpness, weight, and toughness. The black iron sword pattern didn't just contain sharpness, weight, and toughness. It also contained the ability to condense and conduct chi. With a shake of his wrist, Li Fuchen thrusted the sword into the air. Before the sword arrived, the chi arrived first. In the air, the sword chi flashed and vanished. The black iron sword pattern is much easier to condense sword chi. It is also much smoother to release the sword chi. No wonder it is called the black iron sword pattern. Li Fuchen nodded silently. Since he had grasped the black iron sword pattern, the next step was to condense the black iron sword pattern on his bone marrow. Li Fuchen didn't know if his bone marrow could withstand the black iron sword pattern, but he still had to try. Sitting cross-legged, Li Fuchen closed his eyes. In the inner vision state, Li Fuchen's chi flowed out from his dantian and meridians, flowing towards his bone marrow. After a few breaths, Li Fuchen couldn't help but gasp. Condensing the black iron sword pattern on his bone marrow was much more painful than he had imagined. Not only was it painful, but it was also very itchy. It was as if countless man-eating ants were gnawing on his bone marrow, causing him to wake up from the inside out. Enduring the pain, Li Fuchen continued to condense the sword pattern. At this moment, if anyone could see through the skin and flesh, they would see that on Li Fuchen's bones, there were patterns that were emitting black brilliance that were extending. I should be able to withstand it. Seeing that the bone marrow was fine, Li Fuchen let out a sigh of relief. He was really afraid that his bone marrow would disintegrate before he could condense the black iron sword pattern. If there was a bone marrow problem, it would be a big problem. What Li Fuchen didn't know was that a martial artist's bone marrow might not be as hard as high-grade metals, but because it was constantly nourished by chi, it was more suitable to condense tool patterns. The only flaw was that not all tool patterns were suitable to be condensed on the bone marrow. If Li Fuchen randomly found a mystic class, low-tier sword pattern to condense on his bone marrow, there would definitely be a big problem. But the black iron sword pattern was different. It was a sword pattern that was suitable for the human bone marrow after a long period of research. As long as one followed and comprehended it, there wouldn't be any big problems. Condensing the black iron sword pattern on the bone marrow wasn't something that could be done in a short period of time. After spending an entire day, Li Fuchen's bone marrow was only able to condense 10% of the black iron sword pattern. The bone marrow in the black iron sword essence chapter actually meant bone. It didn't matter if it was a bone with or without bone marrow, it was all the same in the black iron sword essence chapter. Because the bone marrow was very intricate, the black iron sword pattern had to be very intricate too. There shouldn't be any carelessness. After all, this wasn't the same as condensing a sword pattern on a metal. Metal had a simple structure and wouldn't have much of an impact. But the bone marrow had a huge impact on the human body. If anything went wrong, the bone marrow would die and the person would instantly become a cripple. 10% of the black iron sword pattern. It feels like my bone marrow is much heavier, but it isn't clumsy at all. My burst power is much stronger too. Withdrawing his qi from his bone marrow, Li Fuchen carefully felt the abnormality of his bone marrow. Qi. Lifting his palm and extending a finger, a wisp of sword qi burst out from the tip of his finger, which was extremely sharp. With a thought, the sword qi was shot out. A few dozen meters away, a deep hole that was the size of a finger appeared on the ground. The power doesn't seem to be weak. Li Fuchen took a deep breath and revolved the true inferno qi. Wisps of sword qi were emitted from his body, and in the blink of the eye, there were dozens of sword qi revolving around his body. Go! With a thought, dozens of sword qi were shot out, turning the ground that was a dozen meters away into a hornet's nest. No wonder it is the black iron sword essence. It is actually able to create an effect similar to the sect origin swords. Li Fuchen's eyes flashed with a terrifying radiance. The sect origin swords was extremely powerful. When cultivated to the level of Grand Elder Zhao Wujin, the secret technique would be able to produce thousands of sword qi in the air, leaving the enemy with nowhere to hide or hide. Be it a frontal attack or an area of effect attack, it was enough to shock the world. And the black iron sword essence obviously had the same effect. Right now, Li Fuchen was only able to condense 10% of the black iron sword pattern. If he was able to condense the complete black iron sword pattern, it wouldn't be a problem to release hundreds of sword qi to attack the enemy, let alone a few thousand sword qi. As the days passed, the black iron sword pattern on Li Fuchen's bone marrow was getting more complete. Half a month later, Li Fuchen had already condensed 90% of the black iron sword pattern. The true inferno qi revolved and poured into the bone marrow. In the next moment, dozens of sword qi surrounded Li Fuchen's body. These sword qis were faintly iron black, as if they were real iron swords. Clang, 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 clang. On the opposite side, there was a piece of yellow class peak tier metal that was the height of a human. Sparks were flying everywhere. After the sword qi was used up, the yellow class peak tier metal was already like a hornet's nest, filled with holes and crisscrossed sword marks. Interesting. Li Fuchen's eyes were bright. The black iron sword qi was extremely powerful, but it was a pity that it couldn't contain sword intent. If it could, the power would be even greater. But it didn't matter. With the black gold sword, he could still execute sword arts. Li Fuchen drew the black gold sword and poured the black iron sword qi into it. Buzz. The black gold sword vibrated and emitted a sharp sword qi. Go. With a blast of the rotating flow sword style, the bumpy, yellow class peak tier metal was blasted into a lump of molten iron. Its power was more than twofold stronger than before. In the future, the black iron sword essence can be used as a trump card. Unless it is a crucial moment, it is better not to reveal it. The black iron sword essence was too powerful. Because it didn't need to be stimulated like the mystical dragon secret technique, it could be stacked with the mystical dragon secret technique. As long as the mystical dragon qi was poured into the black iron sword essence, it would be able to produce a stronger sword qi. Welcome to Immortal Cultivation Audiobooks, your gateway to the mystical world of Xianxia. Dive into legendary tales of martial arts, spiritual growth, and immortal ascension. Here, we bring you full-length English audiobooks of the best Wuxia and Xianxia stories, from young prodigies to ancient sect wars. Perfect for fans of Against the Gods, Martial World, and tales of demons and gods.